Hey there guys, and welcome to a new series of Let's Speedrun videos for the channel. We are going to be covering the most updated route for Link's Awakening DX 100%. As you might imagine, it's been a long time since I did one of these series, so quite a lot has changed. One thing quickly to note before I get started here, there are a couple of different routes currently being used for 100%. The two that come to mind are mine and Zorlax's. And Zorlax's is pretty significantly different from mine in terms of routing, but in terms of overall time, the difference is very, very slight. I will point out where our routes diverge and show anything that needs to be showed throughout the series, but with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. Well, there we go. For some reason, my controller wasn't working. Okay. So then, with SGDQ over and done with, I'm sure there are probably going to be quite a few people who are interested in learning 100%, or at least enough that I'm going to be making this tutorial under the assumption that you have not speedrun this game before. So I will be explaining tricks and everything along the way. First thing that I need to explain here is going to be wall clipping. So if you notice, everything in this game is made up of tiles. You'll notice that these two fence posts right here, that's one tile. The gravel right here that Link is standing on, that's one tile, etc., etc. And so normally the game expects you to only be on one tile at a time, but you can do a thing called wall clipping. If you look at the position of Link's shield, if you see, I push down into this corner right here, and now I'm farther in. I'm like halfway into the other tile. So the game now thinks that I'm both on that fence tile and the gravel at the same time. And that can do some really wonky things with the way the game works. The game never expects you to be able to do this, so that is very, very useful in speedrunning. Also, we should note that you can wall clip from above and from below. Look at Link's feet, look at Link's hat. You can see that you can wall clip from any direction. A good visual cue that you are wall clipped is that little pushing animation. Is a good way to just kind of confirm it. You don't need to do that in order to wall clip, but it's a very good visual cue to start with. So yeah, that is wall clipping. I will explain more of its uses later as we continue on with the series. I just entered and exited Madame Meow Meow's house to set my position, my save and quit position. So when I save and quit after picking up my sword on the beach down here, I will start from the exit to Madame Meow Meow's house, which can be, which will just save a little bit of time. And so here we have our first trick called Quick Sword. So if you notice, I was holding shield and right the whole time entering that cutscene. And that's very important, because basically at the end of this cutscene, you're supposed to, wait for the owl to go away, and then you move over to get your shield. But if you line yourself up, the vertical placement is not so important as the horizontal placement. You just need to make sure you're holding your shield out and holding right the whole time. Just try to avoid being in the water, and you should pretty much be good. But if you'll notice here, I am now holding my shield and right, and I just instantly grab the sword. So that is just a couple second time save, but it's pretty easy. So here I buffer A, B, select, and start to bring up the save and quit menu as soon as I possibly can. Mash start and A to get back to my save file as quickly as possible. Now we have a pretty reset-heavy portion of the run, to be honest. There's a lot of tech that comes into play very quickly. And there is a little bit of randomness with a trick coming up here, but it's not too bad once you get it down. So first things first, we have this cave. This cave can be kind of difficult to do fast. The intended way is that you would you know, kind of walk over there, you would break that crystal, then walk all the way around, break that crystal, and then push the block. But that is slow. So the way this room is supposed to look, hopefully I can get it first try, but we'll see, is something along those lines. And basically, what you can do is line your sword up about here. You want to line it up with the bottom of that circle in the middle of that rock right there. And then releasing the spin slash will break both of the crystals. And then once you get comfortable with that, you can move over slightly to the left to attract the keys over, like I just did over there. And you can kill the keys and break the crystals in one spin slash. But otherwise, you would just release the spin slash, kill the keys, and keep moving on. And as you can see right there, if you are low enough on the pit, you can avoid attracting that up left keys, which can save a couple seconds. It's not a huge deal. It just saves a sword slash. And coming up here, we now have another introduction of mechanics. This first episode has quite a few things, quite a few pieces of tech right off the bat. We can actually skip text boxes upon opening treasure chests. And the way you do that is you have to wait about, I think, 8 frames after you open up the chest. And then if you bring up the save and quit menu after that, you can just entirely skip the text box that comes up for the treasure chest. So here, let me just show you. So this is what this text box would look like. And instead, here's what we're going to do. Like that. And this text box is actually one of the smallest time saves in the game because it's only a single text box that shows up. But in the future, there will be treasure chests with like 3 or 4 text boxes that you skip, so it saves a lot more time later on. But across the run, it saves a good amount of time. And right here... Okay, so let me see here. Gonna try and kind of explain this. This is gonna be kind of hard. So, okay, there we go. So this is Moblin Skip or Moblin Damage Boost. Basically, the goal here is that you want the bottom part of his arm. Sometimes this part of the arm is actually over here, but the visual cue is the same. You want the bottom row of pixels right here to line up with the bottom row of pixels on this bush, exactly like this. And the Moblin has to be facing up before you start shield bumping him. But once you do, once you get him to this point, you can walk in front of him, quickly wall clip. This is one of the reasons this trick can be kind of tough to get down at first, because you have very little time to do some somewhat precise movement. You quickly wall clip and hold upright so that you are kind of teetering on the edge of this pit, and then the Moblin should shoot an arrow up and boost you over the pit. So here is what that hopefully should look like. Oh, not like that. Okay. Oh, not like that either. Like that. There we go. So, like I said, it can take a little while to get consistent. I still have trouble with it. If you go too far to the left, that's what is going to happen. You'll fall right into the pit. If you don't go far enough over to the right or to the left, then you just won't clear the pit at all. So that one just takes a good amount of practice, really, more than anything. So yeah, but that is Moblin Skip. So up here we have another trick. Like I said, lots of just quick fire tricks back to back. So basically, when you open up this chest, right, you open it up normally, Owl comes, talks to you, etc., etc., and it's like super slow, and then you wait for him to fly away. Okay, cool. Well, there are a couple of methods to skipping this owl. I will cover both of them. I find personally that this first method I will show you is more comfortable on controller with the way I have mine set up, and the other method that I'll show you is more comfortable on keyboard. So the first one is this, where you open up the chest, immediately save and quit, then as soon as you cancel out of the save and quit menu, you buffer another save and quit to skip the text box, and then you immediately start holding down. And if you do it right, you should just skip the owl. So, oh, I was actually a little bit late. So if you are a little bit too late, then that can happen. You're like 1 pixel away from the animation happening. So, but this one should work now. And that is owl skip. So that's the first method of owl skip. Like I said, I find it more comfortable on controller. For some reason, it's really up to personal preference. So in that one, you just open up the chest and immediately bring up the save and quit menu. This one, as you can hear, my keyboard is quite clicky, which is why I'm using a controller for this tutorial, even though I've been running on keyboard lately. But for this one, what you want to do is open up the chest, and 1 frame after you open it up, you press the start button to bring up the inventory. The reason I find this more comfortable on keyboard is that I find it easier to just get that 1 frame timing, because you're just kind of just rolling your fingers on the keyboard like that. So once you do this, it's pretty much the same as the other method. So I can show you with the input controller. So after you do this, you just hit start, buffer a save and quit to skip the text, hold down, and you should get it every time, as long as the most important thing really is the timing of the start menu input after opening the chest. You need it to be 1 frame later, or else you won't get it. Final thing to note about owl skip: do not clip into the chest. If you're wall clipped into the chest, you will not make it, no matter how good your timing is. You will just be short. So if your head looks like this, you will never get owl skip. Make sure it's down here. So, yeah. Another important thing to note, last one before we move on with the run, or the tutorial, is that we can never visit that tile ever again. If we do, the owl will come back and talk to us. Another thing to note, may be useful for new players, if you have low health after moblin skip, which is fairly common, you can actually slash this bush, or any of these 3 bushes. I usually just do a double slash if I need to. Usually the only point where you would want to do that is if you have half a heart, because this dog down here can sometimes kill you coming out of the shop if you only have half a heart. So those hearts can be a nice backup strat to avoid a death, because it's faster to get the hearts than it is to die. So coming up, we have Trendy Game, which has a pretty easy visual cue. So talk to this guy, start walking to the left, get your crane over here, and press A just about when the top of the powder, right here, lines up with the bottom of the left-facing conveyor belt, just like the transition between the 2 conveyor belts, this line right here. When it lines up like that, you will get it every time. So that is Trendy Game. Also, thing to note here, if you want, this is really, really small, so it's only a small optimization thing, but if you want to, you can actually wall clip right here, slash this bush, and then that bush. Also, that's the dog that can kill you. So if you do it fast, it looks like this, and that's a little bit faster than slashing it like that, but small optimization, not really a big deal. Now we move on to the shop, and the shop is a big deal. We need to shoplift. Shoplifting is important, because we don't want to save up for 1,200 rupees. So the shopkeeper is not really RNG per se. Like, there is a little bit of randomness to it sometimes, but basically you want to walk over here, wait for him to look up at you, and as long as it takes him to look up at you, you want to wait that long before you start moving down. So looked up, Boom. So he took like maybe a half a second or a little bit more before he looked up. So then I waited about half a second or a little more before I went towards the exit. Okay, and so we actually have a couple things to cover as far as Zorlax's route versus my route. We do differ here in the shop. What Zorlax does is I believe he like saves and quits like upon buying the bombs or something like that, so that you save the 10 rupees, and then he goes in, buys another set of 10 bombs, and then goes to steal the shovel. My route doesn't require 20 bombs, it only requires 10, so that's one difference to note. And if you do accidentally buy the bombs in Zorlax's route, you will need to make sure you get at least 10 rupees throughout the rest of the run, but that shouldn't be a big deal. I've already got 3. And you need those 10 rupees by the time you finish, like, or by the time you're on your way to, like, Dungeon 8, which is no big deal. So, same rule applies for shoplifting right here. He took forever to look at me, I go down, and I'm good to go. Other route difference to note. When you're going up from the trendy game, Zorlax goes and gets this seashell right here. I do not do that yet. I get that seashell later on. So, and that's actually pretty important for my route. You do not want to get that seashell or else you'll not be able to get one later in the game. And here we have my first seashell, Zorlax's second, right here. And now we just make our way to Dungeon 1, which is a pretty simple trek. We just want to avoid getting hit if possible, like that. Sometimes you just need to slash your sword. Wastes like a fraction of a second, but it's no big deal. Okay, last thing for this split, or for this this episode, is if you walk diagonally into that block, you can save the time of like going all the way up here to the front. Small optimization, but also really easy to do. It's not precise at all. As long as you're facing up and do this kind of diagonal push, you will get it. You don't even need to be fully wall clipped for this to work. You just need to walk diagonally like that, and it'll work. So, with that said, that is going to do it for this episode of Let's Speedrun Link's Awakening DX 100%. Apologies, it is a long video, but there's a lot to cover in the first episode because there's a lot of stuff to introduce. Hopefully the next couple will be a little bit shorter. But that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and I will see you next time.